Hope you're doing good. In this live stream, we are going to be researching the upcoming fight taking place at UFC 280 between Charles Oliveira and Islam Makhachev together as a group, as a community, because as you guys know, the only place where you can find truth and honesty in this game is in actually sitting down and watching the fight footage. So we're going to be going through the last few matchups that Islam Makhachev has had, Oliveira's last few fights as well. We're going to work together as a group, watch these fights together as a community, and hopefully by the time we're done researching the last few matchups from both guys, we're going to have a pretty good idea of who is more likely to win this matchup and if either of them is going to be worth a bet. So let me just check that we are working on Twitch and YouTube. We are live on, so Twitch is working good and looks like we're up on YouTube as well. YouTube can be a little bit tricky at times, so I'm just going to double check. We are good to go. We are good to go. Okay, here we go. So yeah, I hope you're all doing good, guys, and like I say, we'll work together on this one, and hopefully by the time we're done with this live stream, we'll all have a pretty good idea of how this one's likely to play out. And if not, obviously it's going to be difficult to bet this, but at least we will know either way, because of course everyone's got an opinion on this matchup. It's a huge fight, it's a great matchup, amazing stylistic matchup, you know, with both these guys bringing really big weapons to the table that can cause each other a problem. So we're going to be taking a look at that and together working out who's more likely to win this. So we should always start off with the odds. So if we take a look at the odds on this one, we can see that Islam Makhachev is a moderate favourite at average odds of around 1.60, which is going to be minus 167 for an implied probability of 63%. If we take a look at the odds on Charles Oliveira, he is around an average of, it's quite a big odds spread. We'll say 2.45 for now, average odds of plus 145 for an implied probability of 41%. So the bookies have got this roughly 60-40 in favour of Makhachev. And I'm surprised, if I'm being brutally honest, before we jump into research, I'm surprised the Makhachev's not a bigger favourite here, just because historically really good combat sambo guys tend to do pretty well against, you know, Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioners. And even though Oliveira is likely going to have the advantage on the feet, he's not really going to be able to use that advantage if he's on his back, with Makhachev kind of grinding him out. So I'm a little bit surprised Makhachev's not a bigger favourite, but we will hopefully be able to determine in this session whether that means there's value in betting on Makhachev, or if there's some things that I'm not aware of, that I've forgotten about, that, you know, I'm not thinking of, which could you know, make this a more difficult fight for Makhachev than I anticipate it is likely to be. So also want to just at this stage let you guys know who are watching this video after the fact on YouTube that there's no timestamps or anything on this this video you're watching, because it's a live interactive session and I don't know where we're going to go with this or what we're going to cover. We're kind of just figuring this out, researching the fight as a group and trying to determine who's more likely to win this amazing fight that we're being treated to this weekend, or not this weekend. It'll be a week on it'll be a week on Saturday. We've got Araujo and Grasso this weekend. So anyway, what we will do is just edit that very quickly and we'll jump into taking a look at the tail of the tape. So Charles Oliveira is 32 years old, 5'10", with a 74-inch reach, although it is worth noting that, of course, Oliveira did previously compete at featherweight. He's a good size for a lightweight. He's got an average wingspan for a lightweight, but with him previously competing at featherweight and having that lean, long, lanky frame, you would anticipate that Makhachev would be the more physically imposing fighter in this matchup. Makhachev, 31 years old, 5'10", with a 70-inch reach, so he's about the same size, but obviously he's quite strong, quite muscular, whereas, like I say, Oliveira is quite lean and used to fight at featherweight. But Oliveira will have a nice 4-inch reach advantage, which certainly doesn't hurt, because we know Oliveira is a guy that fights long. He's got really nice long straight punches, does a really good job of using his length with his kicks as well. And so with Makhachev, being one of these guys that can stay quite light on his feet and move around very well, that reach advantage for Oliveira, you know, is going to help him get to Makhachev, you know, when Makhachev's going to be trying to circle away, and for the most part, I would imagine, avoid engaging with Oliveira. I would imagine that Makhachev's going to want to be all the way out of a range where he can be hit here, or all the way inside, looking to get to that body lock and drag Oliveira to the ground. So what we will do is we'll just catch up on any comments we've got, and then we'll jump right into the fight research. What's up, Bopham Coach? Hope you're doing good, mate. Bopham Coach is saying, hope you're doing well. So Bopham Coach is saying he thinks this is going to be a pass. What's up, Taz? What's up, Parlons, mate? Good to see you, mate. What's up, Owen Gladstone? What's up, Cam? And Cam is saying max bet on Makhachev. Good spot for him here. Gotta be honest, mate, that's how I'm feeling going into this. But maybe I'll find some stuff that I'm not thinking of. All right, let's go. So Taz is saying Makhachev was exposing his neck against Tsarukyan, and he won't be able to get away with that against Oliveira. We will see, man. Let's get into it. All right, so I think the first fight that we could probably take a look at is, I tell you what, actually we can watch a good number of fights in a short space of time, because Oliveira's last fight ended in 3 minutes and Makhachev's last two have ended for a combined total of about 5 minutes. So just to start to get a feel for this one, let's watch Oliveira against Gaethje and Makhachev's two most recent fights. So we'll start off with, let's do Makhachev green, Oliveira Gaethje, Makhachev hooker, and then we'll work through some of the fights that took a little bit longer. So what I'm going to do is drop in the links on Twitch and YouTube for you guys to go to Fight Pass and watch along. So this is the link to the Makhachev Bobby Green fight. We'll drop that in YouTube, and there it is on Twitch as well. And I'll just grab you guys the ESPN Plus links. Now, don't think this fight is going to tell us a whole lot, because obviously Makhachev just dragged Green to the ground and dominated him, but at least we'll get maybe a little bit of an idea of Makhachev's physicality. So the way this is going to work is we will all sync up the start of this fight, and then we'll watch along together using this countdown clock. So sync up the very beginning of the first round for me. Obviously I can't watch this with the fight up on the screen in front of me, because it'll get copyright flagged, but we can watch it together. So sync this one up for me, guys, with your Fight Pass account. Get to the very start of the first round, and then we'll hit play all at the same time. We'll watch this together and see what this fight is showing us. So on Fight Pass, this starts at about 3 minutes and 9 seconds on Fight Pass. I'll switch cam over to here as well. Is that looking all right? Yeah, there you go. So it starts at about 3 minutes and 9 seconds in, and we'll leave that up there. 3 minutes and 9 seconds. So let's hit play, watch this together in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Let's see what we've got here. So Makhachev coming out in the southpaw stance. I think Oliveira switches stances a lot, right? He's not southpaw orthodox. He will switch quite a bit. Maybe I'm wrong on that. We'll soon find out. So Makhachev just using his kicks here to keep Green out of that boxing range. We know that's where Green wants to be. He's a boxer. And Makhachev trying to keep him out of a range where he can be hit by just using those kicks. Of course, against Oliveira, that's going to be a lot more difficult to do, because Oliveira is one of these guys that will not respect the distance. He's crazy aggressive. He'll come forward with loads of pressure, take that space away from Makhachev, and force him to engage one way or the other, either striking or having to alleviate the pressure that Oliveira is putting on him with a takedown attempt. So Bobby Green respecting Makhachev here. I would not expect Oliveira to do that. I think he's going to come out the gate super aggressive with loads of pressure and just try and create a load of chaos early on, and bet on his ability to thrive in that chaos and perhaps catch Makhachev cold. So you can see Makhachev just staying slightly out of a range where he can be hit. Every time Bobby Green steps forward an inch, Makhachev just backs up an inch, just waiting for his opportunity to close the distance and get to the takedown. So he tied Bobby Green up here, overhook on the left side, Bobby Green's takedown defense throughout his career has been amazing. He's been one of these guys that has been almost impossible to take down, even harder to hold down. So I'm interested to see how easily Makhachev gets him down here. Shoots right in on a double leg and puts Bobby Green on his back. Straight away you can see Makhachev's doing a really good job of moving to control the left side of Bobby Green's body and creating a barrier in between Makhachev and the cage. That's to prevent Bobby Green from being able to wall walk. You see, as Bobby Green was lying parallel to the cage, the first thing Makhachev did with his right arm was reach around the back of Bobby Green, and that was to prevent Bobby Green from getting that left side tight to the cage so he could pop back up to his feet. So Makhachev showing a lot of cage generalship there, knowing what he needs to do to make it difficult for his opponent to get back up to his feet, and he's also dragged Bobby Green away from the cage here, so wall walking is no longer an option. So what I'm very interested in this session is to also look at the positions that Makhachev works for on the ground. So here we can see that he's taken half guard, which is really interesting, because if you take a BJJ guy like Oliveira down into half guard, there's not a lot he can do to you, because when you're in half guard you obviously tie the legs up, so the triangles, the arm bars aren't going to be there for Oliveira, and it's also, he can't attack with any chokes off his back either. So when we're going to be watching footage of Makhachev against lower level grapplers like Thiago Moises, like Bobby Green, I'm just interested to see what positions that he kind of works for on the ground, because obviously if he's in people's guard a lot, there's a lot more danger there for him against Oliveira in guard, because from there obviously Oliveira can, you know, look for arm bars, triangles, things like that. Makhachev very quickly advanced from half guard to mount there. I don't think he would do that against Oliveira though, that early on. Obviously when you advance to mount that quickly at this early stage in a fight, in that transition or when you're in mount, your opponent's fresh enough to kind of try and buck you off, create a little bit of space, scramble out of there. I don't think Makhachev would take those liberties against Oliveira. I think it would be more likely that he would stay in half guard for a little bit, wear Oliveira down more before advancing the mount. But I feel that aggression on the ground from Makhachev was because of the guy that he's fighting. I don't think he would be as aggressive over against someone like Oliveira. I think you'd see a more methodical progression through those positions, like you'd see from Khabib, you know. But what I do really like about Makhachev in that fight was how he drove Bobby Green into the cage, and when he realized he wasn't going to be able to use the overhook to do anything, because Bobby Green's takedown defense is pretty fucking good, so it's very impressive how easily Makhachev was able to get him down. But the reason he was able to get him down is because he disengaged from that overhook and then shot right back in on the double leg and got in so deep on the legs of Bobby Green that Green didn't stand a chance of stuffing that takedown. So good performance from Makhachev there. I don't feel like Makhachev got a lot of respect for that performance, because I don't think people really realize how difficult it is to take Bobby Green down. Very few guys have been able to get Bobby Green down that easily, so you know, it's pretty good achievement to make such easy work of a tough guy like Bobby Green. What's up, Hugo Boss? Hope you're doing good, mate. So let's watch another fight now. Let's watch a little bit of Oliveira. So we will check out his fight against Justin Gaethje. So I will drop in the links for this one into Twitch and YouTube again. So get this one going again. Same thing, guys. Let's sync up the first round of this fight. Let's sync it up. And the ESPN Plus links are coming now. In the Twitch, in the YouTube. Alright guys, there you go. So sync this one up for me right at the start of the first round. On Fight Pass, that is going to be 3 minutes 56 seconds. That's 3 minutes 56. 3 minutes 56. So when we're all ready to go, let's go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. See what we've got here. So you can see Oliveira wants to take control of the centre of the octagon, force you into that uncomfortable range, whereas Bobby Green was looking to mix it up in boxing range against Makhachev. Oliveira is one of these guys that is so comfortable on the ground. He'll just come forward aggressively. He's not worried about being taken down. If anything, he wants you to take him down. So he's not worried about level changes here. He's just going to come forward, put loads of pressure on you, and just look to overwhelm you. But of course, when you are coming forward aggressively like that, you leave yourself wide open to big counters, and we see Oliveira getting dropped there. Yeah, Oliveira's eating big shots here. That was a huge two-strike combination from Gaethje, and then he landed a massive right hook to follow up, which hurt Oliveira bad. You can see his legs briefly go. So the thing is, technically, Oliveira's probably a more dangerous striker, throws a more diverse range of attacks than Makhachev. But at the end of the day, Makhachev is still a 156-pound professional fighter. And if you walk anyone in the lightweight division down like Oliveira does, chin up high, doesn't move his head very much, a sitting duck to counters, like anyone can hurt you. Of course Oliveira is very dangerous when he's coming forward aggressively like this, but he is also a sitting duck to big counters. And obviously on the feet is not where Makhachev's going to want to be, but you can see the shots that Gaethje's landing here. I mean, look, we're only 2 minutes in. Look at the amount of damage Oliveira's wearing already. And on top of that, look at how many big shots he's eaten. But there you can see what Oliveira's goals are, right? He grabs a hold of Gaethje, pulls guard. When he comes forward with this much pressure, he's hoping you'll try and take him down, because he wants to be off his back attacking with submissions. Gaethje wasn't looking to alleviate the pressure with takedowns, so he thought, fuck this. I'm not going to keep coming forward blocking punches in my face against a guy that hits this hard. I'm just going to pull guard. But obviously Gaethje didn't want to play that game and just got out of guard and stood back up. So we're only 2.5 minutes in. A lot has happened. I think what this fight shows me, though, is that Oliveira is very reckless and his boxing defense is not good. Very dangerous offensively, but a bit of a sitting duck. The amount of damage this guy's taken in 2 minutes, the amount of big, hard, clean shots he's absorbed is not healthy, man. It's not good for you. Especially against someone like Makhachev, who will look to pick his shots more than Gaethje, because when Oliveira's coming forward here, Gaethje's looking to just stand his ground and counter with bombs, right? But we know Makhachev, more of a counter striker, likes to stay light on his feet, dance around, pick his shots. Those kind of guys could be dangerous for Oliveira. And again, Oliveira's strategy works, right? Overwhelm guys with chaos. Kicks, straight punches, elbows, guard pulls, takedown attempts. One of Oliveira's biggest strengths is his unpredictability. There's so much that he can do to you so well as he comes forward that he's going to be a very difficult guy to read. And you can see literally just overwhelmed Gaethje there. Brilliant performance. Well, I don't think it was a brilliant performance, right? Let's not get carried away. Brilliant performance in the sense that, you know, he won the title. He didn't, but you know, he's the he's the champ, right? We all accept Oliveira as the champ. I'm not sure if you would call that a great performance, though. Like the amount of damage that he took in those 2 minutes, the amount of clean, hard shots that he took. He does put himself in a lot of danger, man. Does put himself in a lot of danger. Takes a lot of risks. So let's now take a look at Makhachev's fight against Dan Hooker. So again, I'll drop the links in to YouTube and Twitch. If you could sync it up for me again, the start of round 1, we'll watch this together. I can't actually remember too much about this fight. It's a distant memory, which is not a good sign because it wasn't that fucking not that long ago that it took place. But I've only got so much hard drive space, right? You know it is. Watch so many fights, man. They fucking clear the hard drive space quickly. That's why I always have to do bloody fight research every week, because otherwise my mind plays tricks on me. So sync up. Start of this fight. Hooker Makhachev starts at 1 minute 33, 1 minute 32 on Fight Pass. And let's see if we got any comments to catch up on. What's up, Mad Music? Good to see you, mate. Hope you're doing good, Mad Music, mate. Mad Music is saying, I'm leaning Makhachev, but when I hear Javier Mendez and Khabib talk about the matchup, they sound delusional the way they talk. So I'm starting to second guess. Delusional corner talk is a red flag for me. Do you mean kind of like when they basically say like Makhachev is better than Khabib, the best fighter they've ever seen, that kind of thing? I mean, they might be right, you know, because if you think about it, if Makhachev has been training with Khabib, you know, his whole life pretty much, Makhachev's going to have the benefit of being able to learn from all of Khabib's mistakes. Like, Khabib was like the first dude, right, from that, you know, that camp with a combat sambo base coming out of Dagestan, you know, to do it in the UFC. So I'm sure Khabib would have made a lot of mistakes and ran into a lot of problems along the way, and now he can pass that wisdom on to Makhachev, and Makhachev can kind of learn through Khabib. So it is possible that Makhachev could be a lot better than Khabib, you know, because he could be like Khabib 2.0. That's the way I would look at it. It's possible, man. We'll soon find out. The Funhouse, what's up, Funhouse? Hope you're doing good, mate. Funhouse saying the small X factor here is that the fight's in Abu Dhabi. That has to be in Makhachev's favour. Yeah, that's a really good point, mate. Especially after Oliveira missing weight last time out, Makhachev already has a dominant win there. Yeah, that's a good point. That is a good point. Makhachev's going to be a superstar in Abu Dhabi, right? It's like a hometown fight for him. Matt Music's also saying that some of the quotes from Javier Mendez, who is obviously Makhachev's coach, owner of AKA, said that Islam is better than Charles everywhere. He's going to ride him like his horse. They're trying to project supreme confidence, but it just feels off. Genuine confidence is really loud. Fair enough, mate. Fair enough. Hey, what's up, Randy? Hope you're doing good, mate. What is up, Randy, mate? Edward Kelly. Randy Garcia is asking to be a mod. Can you email me, Randy, at this email address, mate? Email me there, dude. And we can talk about that. Edward is saying, I feel Charles is better offensively, but Islam better defensively on the feet. Yeah, I would agree. Well, it's tough for me to say. We haven't seen a great deal of striking from Makhachev, but I can't imagine Makhachev can be much worse defensively than Oliveira based on what we just saw. Alright, let's get into this next fight then. Hooker versus Makhachev. Start at 1 minute 32 on Fight Pass. Let's get it going in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. So I can't really remember much about this fight, so it'll be good to watch it back. How long ago was it? How bad is my brain functioning? About a year ago. Seems like it was more recent than that. So again, what I do really like about Makhachev is he's pretty good at reading his opponents. He was doing the same to Bobby Green. He just stays an inch out of a range where they can get to him with head strikes. And every single time you see Hooker edge forward a little bit to throw something, Makhachev's really good at reading him and just slipping just outside of a range where he can be hit. So nice double leg takedown entry there again from Makhachev. And again, what we're looking for here is what positions Makhachev looks for on the ground. So straight away he looks to tie the legs of Hooker up. Straight away. He did the same thing to Bobby Green. That's really bad news for Charles Oliveira, because again, one of Oliveira's biggest weapons on the ground going to be his triangles and arm bars. And by tying up the legs, you completely take the risk of that away. If you tie up the legs of Oliveira, it doesn't matter how high the level of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu he has, he's not going to be able to do anything to you off his back. So obviously Hooker and Bobby Green are nowhere near the level of grappler that Oliveira is, But the thing is, the takedown entries from Makhachev are so well timed, and he's so fast at tying those legs up. It's going to be difficult for Oliveira to stop, especially because Oliveira is quite weak in the lower body. When you look at Oliveira, we were saying earlier on in the stream, he's got that long, lean, skinny frame. So when Makhachev shoots in on those legs, it's going to be very, very difficult for Oliveira to stuff the takedown and stop Makhachev from tying up the legs with how fast Makhachev works. So already you can see Makhachev's grappling being a bit of a problem for Oliveira. It'll be interesting to watch the Thiago Moises fight though, because obviously even though Oliveira is a higher level on the ground than Moises, Moises is still a high level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. So it will be interesting to see if Moises had any answer for Makhachev trying to control those legs early on. But straight away you can see that Makhachev's goal with his grappling immediately is to neutralize the threat that his opponent poses to him off their backs. He does that by tying up the legs, and you know that could be trouble for Oliveira, big trouble. And another impressive win. Like I say, I know that Hooker, I know that Bobby Green are nowhere near the level of Oliveira on the ground, but you don't need to see a guy like Makhachev face a particularly high level of grappler to still assess what he's going to likely try to do against Oliveira. And you can tell by the technique and the speed at which he moves how much success he's likely to have in achieving his goals of what he's trying to do. And with how fast he moves, it's going to be difficult for Oliveira to stop. Really, really difficult, man. Really difficult. Hey, what's up, Edward Kelly? Hope you're doing good, mate. Yeah, I'm all good, Randy. Thanks, mate. I'm all good, dude. Hope you're doing good, Randy, mate. So, let's now take a look at a fight which lasts a little bit longer and will probably give us a little bit more information. So, let's take a look at... Do we watch the Moises fight first or the Chandler fight? I think we should watch the... What do you guys think? What do you guys think, man? Chandler... Sorry, Poirier or Moises? Let's watch the... I'm trying to think what the most logical fight to watch would be to help us learn about these fighters in the optimum way. I think we'll watch the Moises Makhachev fight just because I don't feel we've seen tons of striking from Makhachev, whereas we've seen a little bit of grappling from Oliveira, quite a bit of striking from Oliveira. A lot happened in that Gaethje fight, even though it only lasted 3 minutes. A lot happened. Whereas with Makhachev against Green and Hooker, he kind of just took both guys down and dominated them on the ground. So let's watch the Moises fight, because otherwise we haven't really seen Makhachev tested very much. So then when we go and watch Poirier versus Oliveira, we'll have a little bit more like information to work with in terms of how Oliveira is going to match up with Makhachev in different positions. So what I will do, let's share this link with you guys now. Makhachev Moises. I'll drop it into the YouTube. Hey, what's up, Hiltsy? Hope you're doing good, mate. Hope you're doing good, man. And here's the ESPN Plus link as well. So sync up the start of this first round for me. What I'm also going to do as well, guys, there's a lot of football the rest of this week, so I'm probably going to be betting football every evening for the rest of this week. But then early next week, I'm also going to try and do live streams for the Sterling TJ fight and also the O'Malley Peter Yan fight. So yeah, if you like these live streams, man, hit the like button. And if enough people like them, we'll do live streams for the other two big fights. I'm fascinated by the Sterling Dillashaw matchup, because I think if you just go back maybe like a year or two, I think Dillashaw completely handles Sterling. I think Dillashaw dominates Sterling. I think Dillashaw does whatever he wants to Sterling, standing up and on the feet. But with TJ coming back from You know, pretty significant knee surgery. Obviously, has fought since EPO Gate and looked amazing against Sandhagen, but, you know, the whole dark cloud over TJ with PEDs makes it difficult to know what to expect from him, you know, from here on out. On top of that, he's also really, really old for a bantamweight now. So, you know, in recent history, I would have said Dillashaw probably dominates Sterling, but there's enough X factors there which can make that fight super, super complicated now. Hey, what's up, Will? Hope you're doing good, mate. I didn't watch the West Ham Fulham game yesterday, mate. No, I was like flicking through loads of different games, so I didn't watch it, mate. I'll watch Match of the Day though at some point this week. I know there was a lot of controversy over the weekend over inconsistent VAR decisions, but I haven't really looked at it, man. I'm gonna catch up on it all you know, sometime soon. You know. All right, let's get into it, man. Let's do Makhachev Moises. So this one starts at 3 minutes on Fight Pass. Let's get it going in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Here we go. So hopefully Moises offers up a bit more resistance on the ground so we can learn a bit more about Makhachev when he's facing someone that can actually defend himself on the ground. I do think Makhachev's striking defense is really good. The question is going to be, well, obviously his striking defense is really good, but it's in kickboxing range against guys like Hook and Moises and Bobby Green that want to fight him in the middle of the octagon. Don't know how good Makhachev's striking defense is going to be against an absolute buzzsaw like Oliveira that's not going to show him any respect. He's just going to walk him down, put loads of pressure on him, take away that space, and look to force him to engage. Like, that's the thing with Oliveira, right? He's bad defensively, but that kill or be killed style does make him tricky to deal with, because we saw in the Gaethje fight, he's not afraid to put himself in extreme danger to create chaos, because he's confident in his ability to thrive in that chaos. What you can see from Makhachev, though, in the 3 fights we have watched, is he's not really interested in boxing. His striking is very kicks-based. Doesn't really throw too much with his hands. He's using that lead hand to measure distance, but for the most part, when it comes to actually throwing stuff, he's just looking to chip away with kicks. He doesn't want to be in a range where he can be hit. He's not interested. But I do think Makhachev's really good at reading people. Whether, like I say, whether he'll be good at reading Oliveira with that pressure, I mean, the pressure changes things. But like you see even there, Moises blitzes forward, and even though they're fighting in close proximity, Makhachev reads it, sees it coming from a mile away, and backs up out of a range where he can be hit, you know, with like picture perfect timing. So Makhachev's striking defense is really, really good. So Moises is working for a takedown, which is interesting. But Makhachev's obviously just got that overhook on the left side, and Moises doesn't really have anything here. Again, it's all kicks from Makhachev, very little boxing. I think he's thrown, what, 1 punch in 3 minutes. There's his second, his third, his fourth. But he looks to just use his long kicks to chip away at his opponents from a safe distance. Although he is closing the distance now and starting to let his hands go. He's probably building confidence because Moises isn't throwing anything back. But with how apprehensive Makhachev is to engage against someone like Moises, I don't really see him doing what Gaethje did and look to pick Oliveira off as Oliveira comes forward. Obviously Gaethje caused Oliveira big problems with his boxing. I don't see Makhachev as being that likely to do that, because I don't think Makhachev's that confident in his boxing. he's starting to let his hands go against Moises because he's built confidence that Moises isn't really going to be able to hurt him with anything coming back his way. But I don't think he'll be as willing to engage with Oliveira. Beautiful takedown there from Makhachev. Just gets the body lock. And again, look guys, very interesting. Look at what Makhachev has obtained here. He got to the body lock, dragged Moises down. As they hit the ground, Makhachev was already in the half guard position. So this is going to be really tricky for Oliveira. Okay, so Moises has recovered guard there. This is a much better fight to watch than the Hooker-Bobby Green one. Because as soon as Makhachev controlled the legs of Hooker and Bobby Green, there was nothing either guy could do about it. When it comes to Moises, though, he's a BJJ guy. He's better off his back. You can see him turning his hips in there and looking for an armbar. He got back to full guard relatively easily there. And full guard's not where you want to be against a BJJ guy, right? You want to be in half guard where you can prevent them from using their legs to control your posture, to attack with arm bars, triangles, to try and create space off their back to improve their position. So Makhachev just staying in guard here, chipping away at Moises. But yeah, Moises was able to get guard back pretty easily there, which is interesting. But also notable to me how Makhachev took him down into half guard. So it is clear that Makhachev's always looking to control those legs as he hits the ground. So let's get round 2 going now. On Fight Pass, it starts at 9 minutes and 11 seconds. So sync up the start of round 2 for me. And then we'll watch this together. Yeah, that Bop and Coach is saying there was a bad decision in the TJ Sandhagen fight. I do agree. I've watched that fight a few times since when I've been researching Sandhagen's fights. And yeah, I do think it was a pretty bad decision. Sandhagen did win that fight. The judges, I think, got that one wrong. So sync up round 2. Sync up round 2. Few people saying the TJ lost to Sandhagen. So Chris Riley is saying, any thoughts who might have the gas tank advantage? What I would say is, obviously we've never seen Makhachev really forced to work that hard over 5 rounds. But what we have seen is him fight at an insane pace for 3 rounds against Arman Tsarukyan, and he didn't slow down. We have seen Oliveira fade in fights when he's been forced to work hard. He faded hard against Felder. You know, faded hard against Pettis and Lamas. I know he's a lot better now. He's improved a lot since back then. But if you're asking me, like, gun to my head, whose gas tank would hold it better in a 4 or 5 round fight, I would have to say Makhachev. Because there's at least a little bit of evidence that Oliveira's slowed in the past. There's no evidence that Makhachev slowed in the past. And like I say, that fight against Tsarukyan was at such an insane pace that I would have to say, you know, Tsarukyan probably also be able to make Oliveira work harder as well on the Tsarukyan would also be able to make Makhachev work harder on the ground as well, because of how scrambly Tsarukyan is, how much better a wrestler he is than Oliveira. You know, we saw his scrambles against Gamrot. The guy is pretty difficult to control, whereas we have seen guys take Oliveira down and hold him down. Edward Kelly is asking what Premier League team I support. I don't support any Premier League team, man. I support Cardiff City. It's a team in the league below the Premier League, man. In the UK, yeah, it's quite tribal in the UK, man. So don't like any Premier League team. Don't want to use the word hate, but I'm not fond of them, man. My hometown club, Cardiff City, we do get to the Premier League every once in a while. Get promoted. Been relegated immediately, like every time it's happened. But yeah, I don't like any team in the Premier League, man. Mad Music is saying, I think Oliveira's playing possum a bit in some of these recent fights where he's been getting dropped. Yeah, I agree with you. That's a great point, Mad Music. So Mad Music is basically saying that Oliveira's been doing the same thing we saw guys like Damian Maia and Fabrizio Verdum do throughout their entire career, where they'll fake getting dropped, fake being hurt, so that guys will hopefully jump on top of them to try and, you know, follow up a ground and pound and finish the fight. And obviously that's when they can use their Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to trap him in bad positions. Something that Damian Maia, Fabrizio Verdum used to do a lot. These BJJ guys often go down very easily to make you think you've hurt them, but actually they're just hoping you'll go into their guard. So yeah, that's a really good point, Mad Music, man. What's up, MMA Locker Room? Hope you're doing good, mate. Hope you're doing good, man. Mad Music is saying Islam should win this with his ground control and striking defense, but Oliveira is too scary to bet against at this stage in his career. Funhouse saying he's definitely played possum on one of those knockdowns with Gaethje. Taz saying, I see Makhachev hitting the ground running for takedowns, but I have no clue what Charles will do. Will he treat the ground like lava or rely on his BJJ? Yeah, I think Oliveira will be quite happy on the ground, man. I think he won't mind if the fight goes to the ground. Like, I don't think you'll see Oliveira work really hard to keep the fight standing. Oh wow, that's interesting. So the Funhouse is saying Oliveira's only had one triangle finish in his entire career, and only a few armbars. Yeah, he's more of a guillotine choke guy, right? So that's interesting. Because the threat of the threat, yeah, guillotine's his biggest submission weapon, right? If we look at his record, I'm pretty sure guillotines are his thing. Guillotine, anaconda chokes, rear naked choke. I mean, it would be very difficult for him to get to Makhachev's back. Mostly chokes. Which again isn't going to be easy if Makhachev's got control of his body, which he always tends to have. So yeah, really interesting point there from the Funhouse, saying that it's not like Oliveira's triangles and armbars are particularly dangerous anyway. I'm not even sure if I've ever seen a combat sambo guy get caught in a triangle or an armbar. Mad Music saying if the odds were reversed, Makhachev would have been a great bet. And he also believes that his connection, association with Khabib is influencing the odds a bit and creating unwarranted hype. I guess what Mad Music is saying is kind of like what we've seen with maybe someone like Antonina Shevchenko. Remember when Antonina Shevchenko came into the UFC? Like, she, in her first few fights, she was a big favourite because people thought, oh, you know what? She's Valentina's sister, and that gets baked into the odds. I think Mad Music is saying the same thing's happening with Makhachev's relationship with Khabib, but I'm not sure about that, man. I do think Makhachev's very good, but you could be right. Who knows? So, and the Funhouse saying that it's unlikely, or he can't see Islam getting caught with a guillotine. Yeah, I agree. Just because he's always got control of his opponent's body, right? It's like when you see him shoot takedowns and he gets that body lock, he's always dumping guys into side control or half guard. So even if Oliveira were to snatch the neck on the takedown, it's going to be really difficult to submit Makhachev from, you know, side control. As soon as Makhachev feels Oliveira attacking the neck, surely he's just going to dump him into side control, you know? Hey, what's up, Beezy, mate? Yeah, what I'm going to do, Beezy, we'll do another live stream for that Aljo TJ fight, mate. Defo, man. We'll do that. I'll also do Yan O'Malley as well, mate. You know what? I think MMA Locker Room could be right. MMA Locker Room is saying that this might be the last chance to be able to bet Makhachev at playable odds. Because if he does ragdoll Oliveira, which is possible, you know, if we really think about it, right, in MMA history, how many times have we seen high-level combat sambo guys struggle on the ground against high-level BJJ guys? I can't think of any. Can you guys think of any examples where a high-level BJJ guy has had a lot of success on the ground against a combat sambo guy? Can't think of any. So MMA Locker Room could be right in the sense that if Makhachev just takes Oliveira down and dominates him, I mean, he's off to the races then, right? It's like when Chimaev was a 1.44 minus 227 favourite over John Phillips in his UFC debut. And now those odds seem unthinkable. You know, could see the same thing happen with Makhachev. I agree, mate. Paramaniac is saying, I'd say Makhachev is favourite just because of his connection to Khabib. From the top 10, Makhachev... Paramaniac's basically saying the Makhachev doesn't deserve to be a big favourite because he hasn't beaten anyone in the top 10. I say I'm not of that train of thought, man. I do think that you can assess a fighter. You can often assess how good a fighter is based on the skills they've shown in the octagon. They don't necessarily have to fight that high level of opponent to prove themselves. You can tell just by the way they move and the technique that they demonstrate how good they're likely to be. And I do think Makhachev is likely to be absolute creme de la creme, top tier lightweight, even though he hasn't beaten anyone in the top 10. Even though, you know, I understand we haven't really seen him tested. Like, his striking defense looks great against guys like Moises and Hooker and Bobby Green, who want to stand in the middle of the octagon and have a kickboxing contest. But, you know, how will he deal with that chaotic pressure fighting style of Oliveira? I do get there's a lot of unanswered questions over Makhachev. And he has been knocked out as well, right? He was knocked out a long time ago by, what was the guy's name? Martins. Was it Adriano Martins that knocked him out a really long time ago? Yeah, Adriano Martins. So, his chin's not bulletproof. And we know how dangerous Oliveira is on the feet. So, you know, I do get that he is improving in some respects, but I don't think his grappling technique can be questioned, man. I think that is top tier. You can tell just by the way he moves, his physicality, his technique. Oh, nice one, BZ, mate. Thanks a lot, dude. Nice one, mate. Bert is saying Makhachev might be better than Khabib. I do think he could be. I am of this thing where I do think there's a lot of... I do think there's a lot to be said about Makhachev potentially being Khabib 2.0, because if you look at Khabib, right, he probably started training MMA later than Makhachev did. He came over to the United States from Dagestan with a combat sambo base and had to build an MMA grappling game around that. And when Khabib was developing as a fighter, everything that he was learning was for the first time. So he's bound to have made tons of mistakes in his career. And I do think that with Makhachev being Khabib's understudy, he can really benefit from using like an optimized blueprint to become an elite fighter, where there's probably so many mistakes Khabib made that Makhachev won't have to make, because he can learn through Khabib's mistakes. And as a result, that'll just give him more time to improve and become, you know, an even better version of what Khabib was. I do think there is a lot to that. Too early to tell, but I think it's something to think about. That's true, Paramaniac. That's a really good point. Khabib didn't fight that many strong wrestlers. It's true, man. It's a good point. Thiago Silva is saying, could you see Makhachev submitting Oliveira? I could. But it would be through Makhachev wearing Oliveira down. So, for example, you know where we've seen Makhachev take Oliveira down. We've seen Makhachev take Hooker down, take Bobby Green down, put him in a really bad position straight off the back of the takedown and submit him very quickly. I don't see Makhachev doing that to Oliveira, but what I could see is what we saw in the fights against Paul Felder, Ricardo Lamas, Anthony Pettis, where if Makhachev just takes Oliveira down easily in round one and just grinds him down, wears him out, I could see Makhachev submitting Oliveira in like the second, third, fourth round when Oliveira's just become too tired to defend himself. Similar to what we saw Khabib do to Conor, or what we saw Khabib do to Edson Barboza or Michael Johnson or Justin Gaethje, right? Khabib couldn't take these guys down and submit them, straight away, because they were too good at defending themselves on the ground. But once he wore them down, beat them up, tired them out, it's a lot more likely that you can submit your opponent. It's like that thing where if you punch a black belt in the face, they become a brown belt. You punch a brown belt in the face, they become a purple belt. If these guys are going to have a 5-minute BJJ contest, I don't see Makhachev submitting Oliveira. But in a 20-25 minute war of attrition, could I see Makhachev grinding Oliveira down and submitting him? Yeah, definitely. I think that's actually quite likely. Paramaniac is saying that Chimaev was running through the division until he fought Gilbert Burns and then he struggled. I disagree with you there, dude. If you look at the first round of the Chimaev-Burns fight, Chimaev took Burns down easily and dominated him. I strongly believe that Chimaev could have ragdolled Burns for 3 rounds if he wanted to and won a 30-24 decision. But for whatever reason, probably to try and impress Daddy Kadyrov back in Grozny, for whatever reason, Chimaev just chose to stand and bang and play Rock'em Sock'em Robots. It was like he wanted to put on an entertaining fight or something, which was really weird. I think if Chimaev came into the Burns fight with a grappling heavy game plan, it would have been utter domination, because he showed how easily he could get Burns down in round 1 and totally handle Burns on the ground. But for whatever reason, he wanted to play Rock'em Sock'em Robots in round 2 and 3. That's why that fight was competitive. But I do think the competitiveness of that fight said more about Chimaev's poor fight IQ and game planning than his actual ability. Brett Landerfeld, what's up, Brett? Hope you're doing good, mate. Brett is saying that Makhachev uses more trips and throws for his takedowns opposed to traditional double legs, which makes him getting guillotined less likely. That is true. We have seen him shoot some double legs in these fights though, man. But again, that could be because he just hasn't respected Bobby Green and Hooker. Which is why he's just shooting naked double legs, because he's not worried about Bobby Green, hitting a guillotine. Exactly like when, as soon as he hit the takedown on Bobby Green, he was immediately looking to pass from half guard into mount. I don't think he'd be as aggressive on the ground against Oliveira. I think he'd want to wear Oliveira down a bit before advancing. So yeah, I think you're right, mate. He was probably a little bit more reckless with his grappling against Bobby Green, because he didn't worry so much about what Bobby Green could do to him. What's up, Sands? Hope you're doing good, mate. Sands has already bet quite a bit on Makhachev. Paramaniac is saying that Paramaniac is betting Oliveira. Yeah, I don't know, man. Oliveira might be a good bet, Paramaniac. I think we just need to watch some more footage and find out, right? We're very early on at the moment. I might change my opinion, but at the moment, I do think Makhachev's grapplings look pretty impressive. We'll see how he looks against Moises, though. Mad Music is saying, I think Makhachev's a great fighter and he may well win. I just don't think many people... Okay, Mad Music is basically just saying that he thinks the connection with Khabib is, again, creating unwarranted hype in Makhachev. Yeah, I agree, Paramaniac. Oliveira's definitely improved a lot since those fights. Defo, mate. 100%, man. So Astrid is saying that Chimaev said in an interview that he did fear Gilbert Burns' Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu once he felt it. That's interesting, man. That would explain why he chose to stand and bang in rounds 2 and 3. Although it's a little bit weird for me to hear that, because he looked very comfortable on the ground against Burns. Yeah, I think you're right, Paramaniac, man. I think Oliveira's been an underdog in all the fights, right? Alright, let's get into... So we're going to watch round... So we're still on the Makhachev-Moises fight. So round 2 starts at 9 minutes and 11 seconds. So let's watch this together now. Let's get it going. Start round 2 in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. So we saw Makhachev get progressively more aggressive with his boxing in that first round. Should we see if he starts to let his hands go more in this second round? He's also, you can see, he's also closing the distance. So in the early stages of a fight, he maintains a really wide distance between him and his opponent. As the fight progresses, he fights in that closer range. That's probably not even going to be anything worth considering against Oliveira, because Oliveira's going to be relentless with that pressure. So it's not like Makhachev's going to have the opportunity to control the distance. That's Oliveira's gonna dictate the distance they fight at. That's going to be set on Oliveira's terms. And that is interesting, because that does suggest Makhachev is a slow starter. Needs to spend some time figuring his opponent out and finding his range. And he's not going to have that luxury against Oliveira, because Oliveira is going to come out the gate super aggressive, walk him down, look to create chaos and just overwhelm Makhachev. So Makhachev wants like this nice, comfortable point fighting contest on the feet. There's going to be none of that with Oliveira. And Makhachev uses that close distance to just come forward and get to the body lock. So he did a similar thing against Bobby Green, and when he realised he wasn't going to get the body lock, he disengaged and then immediately shot back in on that double leg. Let's see where he's going to get going here. Again, Moises working for a takedown. Moises actually does take him down in this fight, right? I'm sure he took him down one time. It might be here. I'm sure he hit a takedown on Makhachev. So I remember talking in the live betting commentary saying, I don't ever recall Khabib being taken down. Not that it matters, but I think Moises does hit a takedown here at some point. There he goes. He's in on a double leg. Yeah, he picks Makhachev up, puts him on his back. And Makhachev uses the guillotine to scramble to his knees and pop back up. Fast back take from Moises. Well, obviously he didn't have hooks in, so Makhachev could just shake him off. What we do also have to bear in mind is that Moises does have pretty bad cardio. He usually slows down a lot in fights, so it wouldn't surprise me to see Makhachev just handle Moises now, because Moises might have exerted a ton of energy on that takedown, and it's going to be demoralising for him knowing he does slow down and he's just exerted a lot of energy on the takedown and not managed to achieve anything from it. So Makhachev just happy to kind of ride Moises here from this position. One thing I have noticed about Makhachev is he does use the cage very well to control his opponents. We saw him do it as soon as he took Bobby Green down. Notice again how Makhachev is trying to create a barrier between the left side of Moises and the cage, so the Moises can't use the cage as a tool to defend himself. So Makhachev does a really good job of using the cage to make life difficult for guys on the ground. I do get where a lot of people are coming from in the live chat, though. They're saying that Makhachev hasn't been tested. Like, you guys are really right, man. Like, he hasn't been tested. He hasn't been punched in the face hard for a very long time. He hasn't fought anyone that can resist his grappling. Like, he hasn't fought anyone with anything that remotely resembles, you know, decent takedown defense. Like, I do get where you guys are coming from. Like, in terms of trying to assess like his ability against high level lightweights, he is completely untested. Like, I do get that. I just think he's going to stack up pretty well just from the way he moves. Like, I think if he was to fight guys like Dustin Poirier, for example, I think he'd probably do pretty well, man. If he was to fight like O'Connor, I think he'd do pretty well. Just, I think his grappling would be too much. But the guys he may struggle against are like your Gaethje type fighters, who could keep the fight standing long enough to really hurt him on the feet. So I do get that, man. I just think Oliveira may be a little bit too weak in the lower body to stop the takedown attempts. And Makhachev probably has a big advantage when it comes to physicality on the ground. So that was round 2. Again, Moises just made life really easy for Makhachev there. So sync up round 3 for me now, which starts at 15 minutes and 21 seconds on Fight Pass. That's 15 minutes 21 seconds. 15 minutes 21. Let's get it going. Thiago Silva is saying, do you think Oliveira has more ways to win? I do, but I think a lot of Oliveira's ways to win can be taken away from him if Makhachev's able to keep him on his back. Because even though Oliveira likely has a big advantage when it comes to striking, he's not going to be able to use that advantage if Makhachev just takes him down, neutralizes him by getting into half guard, you know, and just wearing on him on the ground. Same as with Oliveira's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Makhachev can take the threat of that BJJ away from him by putting him in certain positions on the ground. So I do agree Oliveira has more ways to win, but that doesn't really matter if Makhachev's able to take those past the victory away. Clifford Rose is saying that his only concern is that Oliveira's never defended takedowns with counter-striking, knees and uppercuts. It would be a great weapon to install to kind of surprise Makhachev as he's shooting in. That's a great point, man. That's a really good point. Good point, man. Oh, nice one, Pyromaniac. Take care, mate. Nice one. Thanks a lot, mate. Matt Lockwold is saying that he has a feeling Makhachev is going to manhandle Oliveira, and this will be the last time we get Makhachev at these odds. Charles Oliveira's looked great in his last 3 fights, and because of that we're getting better odds than we usually would on Makhachev. That's a little bit of how I'm feeling as well, Matt. And I think MMA Locker Room said the same thing earlier on, man. And again, Pyromaniac just making the point that Makhachev hasn't fought anyone. He hasn't been tested. Yeah, Mad Music. That's the fight I'm most interested in watching, because I think Tsarukyan is top tier. I think the Tsarukyan fight is going to tell us a lot about how Makhachev's likely to do on the ground against Oliveira. Defo, man. And Grit is asking who wins, Chimaev or Bo Nickel. I'm not sure, man. I've got no idea. No idea, man. I don't know enough about Bo Nickel. I think what makes guys from a collegiate wrestling background tricky for guys like Chimaev is the pace that they can fight at. Like your Gregor Gillespie's, your Colby Covingtons, they're absolutely relentless. They're so scrambly. They just don't accept being put in bad positions. They work and hustle like crazy. So if Bo Nickel has got that high-level collegiate wrestling background with the gas tank to back it up, he could give Chimaev absolute hell. But we don't know if... I don't know what Bo Nickel's gas tank's going to look like. So pretty tricky to tell. But, man, hopefully we get to see it one day. That would be a great fight. It stood out to me that Chimaev did slow down against Gilbert Burns. So that's why it's really interesting to me how a guy like Chimaev would match up against someone like Colby. Because we know Colby is the kind of guy that can sprint for 25 minutes without slowing down. But obviously, Colby does lack physicality with his wrestling. If Bo Nickel has got the cardio, the physicality, and the high-level collegiate wrestling, he could be kryptonite for a guy like Chimaev. You know, with how much Chimaev slowed down against Burns, that's a dead interesting fight, man. So yeah, we'll watch the Tsarukyan fight in this stream for sure. I think that one's going to give us the best idea of how this fight against Oliveira is likely to look on the ground. So let's get into round 3 now. Moises and Makhachev. Starts at 15 minutes 22 on Fight Pass. Let's get it going in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. So the thing about this third round is we do know that Moises slows down a lot as fights wear on. So by this point in the fight, it's probably going to be pretty easy for Makhachev to get Moises down and do whatever he wants to him on the ground. As the camera like pans on to this sideways angle as well, you can see Makhachev looks a lot bigger than Moises, just a bigger, stronger, more physically imposing guy. And even though on paper they both look a similar size, Oliveira's got the 4-inch reach advantage, I do think Makhachev's going to be a lot more physically imposing than Oliveira. I just think Makhachev's got that big, strong, muscular frame. Oliveira is like lean and slight and thin, which I think will make it more difficult for Oliveira to match that physicality on the ground when these two are grappling. You could see Makhachev just overwhelm Oliveira with his physicality, and I think the Oliveira versus Kevin Lee fight is going to be a really good fight to watch to give us an idea as to how much of an influence Makhachev's physicality can have on the ground, because of course Kevin Lee is a very physically imposing fighter as well. You know, Kevin Lee, particularly early in fights, his grappling is really, he's got an immense physicality to his grappling early on. And so, just like the Tsarukyan Makhachev fight is going to be super useful for us, I think that Oliveira Kevin Lee fight's going to be super useful as well. And probably by the time we've watched those two fights, we'll have a pretty good idea how this one's likely to go. Because Moises, Hooker and Bobby Green, they haven't offered up any resistance in the grappling at all, but we know Tsarukyan is an elite top tier grappler. Of course, the problem with Tsarukyan is he is quite small for a lightweight. I think he's only 5'7", 5'8", something like that. So Makhachev's size advantage will give him, you know, an edge on the ground against Tsarukyan. But then Tsarukyan is probably a much stronger wrestler, you know, more physically imposing on the ground than Oliveira. Because again, Tsarukyan's got that small, compact frame, muscular body type. I think Makhachev just lets guys like Moises have these positions. He's just letting Moises work for a takedown here, but he's very comfortable. You can see he's looking for trips and throws from these positions, but he's not really fully committing to them. He's just being a little bit opportunistic as Moises is tying him up. You can see like Makhachev, when you see Moises initially grabbed that single leg, he's kind of turning his hips in to suggest he was thinking about a judo throw, but then Moises lifted that single leg up and the opportunity was taken away from him. Yeah, I think Makhachev's just kind of letting Moises have these positions, just running the clock down. He's kind of just letting Moises wear himself out a bit, because he knows Moises isn't really going to be able to take him down from here. If he did, he's not going to be able to hold him down. So he's just letting Moises kind of burn himself out a little bit. And then you see Makhachev pick the activity up in the second half of the round, the business end of the round, where he can be like, right, let Moises work a little bit here, tire himself out, and then I'm going to finish this round strong and take control in the business end of the round. So very, very nice back take there. Uses the body lock to dump Moises to the ground and immediately slides that left hook in. What I will say about Makhachev is, like, there's much more diversity to his grappling than Khabib's, right? Khabib was like a very meat and potatoes MMA grappler. He would take you down and just control you. You know, when you see Makhachev attacking with the arm bars towards the end of the last round, going for the Kimura against Dan Hooker, you know, quickly advancing the mount against Bobby Green. You know, here he's looking for back takes off a body lock. There's a lot more to Makhachev's grappling than we saw from Khabib, which again is one of the reasons why I do think Makhachev could be Khabib 2.0, because if he's got that crushing grappling control in his arsenal that Khabib had, but he's also got that kind of fast, aggressive, you know, almost like BJJ style of MMA grappling, where he can attack with submissions, he can take backs quickly. You know, he can pass guard, advance through different positions, you know, very quickly. Then he's kind of like got all the best elements of Khabib's MMA grappling with a whole lot bolted on top. Because you never really see Khabib look to take his opponents back, or, you know, very rarely would attack submissions or, you know, look to advance in the mount. He would just get to that body lock and just grind guys down with ground and pound. There's a lot more diversity to Makhachev's grappling. He's a more complete MMA grappler, but does that mean that his grappling control, you know, isn't as strong as Khabib's because he's kind of, you know, more of a jack of all trades, master of none type of MMA grappler? Or, you know, is he the total package? If he is, he's fucking scary. So let's get into this fourth round now, between Makhachev and Moises. It started 21 minutes and 33 seconds. So that's 21 minutes and 33 seconds. Let's get it going in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. And after this, we'll watch Oliveira against Dustin Poirier, which is an amazing fight. I'm looking forward to watching that one back. But I really feel that until we watch Makhachev, Tsarukyan and Oliveira, Kevin Lee, it's going to be difficult for us to get a really strong read on this one. But I'm confident that by the time we watch those two fights, we'll have a good lean on this one. Beautiful double leg entry there from Makhachev. It's so difficult to stop his double legs because he covers distance so quickly and he shoots in so deep on the legs. You just don't have time to react. So he's taken Moises down into full guard here. Let's see what he does from this full guard position. Didn't shoot that takedown into half guard, which is what he usually does. But by this point, Moises is probably too tired to do anything to him off his back. You can see Moises trying to open his guard up and turn his hips in for an armbar attempt. These double legs are going to be... I don't want to jump the gun. Obviously, a few people have brought up a really good point that Oliveira could be looking to counter some of these double leg entries with knees, which would be a great idea. But aside from him landing like a big crazy counter knee or something on a takedown entry, I do think, I don't want to jump the gun, but I do think it's going to be virtually impossible for Oliveira to stuff these takedowns. I don't even think Oliveira will try. I think Oliveira will be quite happy off his back or fighting on the ground. But the speed at which Makhachev covers distance and how deep he drives in on the legs, I just don't see someone with Oliveira's body type, you know, lean and skinny in that lower body. I just don't see him being able to stop these takedown entries. On top of that, because Oliveira is aggressive, he's going to be coming forward, pressuring Makhachev. He's going to be walking under those takedowns when Makhachev level changes. So I think if Makhachev wants to get this fight to the ground, he's going to be able to quite easily. Which is probably not a surprise to anyone. But I thought I would just say it, just to emphasize how legit these takedown entries are. A rear naked choke with no hooks in. He has got the left hook and it's over. Alright, so what we'll do now is take a look at Oliveira Poirier. So what we'll probably do is we'll probably jump about a little bit. We'll watch Oliveira Poirier, and then I don't think we need to watch the Tony Ferguson fight. I don't think that's going to tell us anything. You know, Oliveira taking down and beating up, you know, a heavily declining Ferguson for 3 rounds isn't going to tell us a great deal. So I think what we'll do for the rest of this stream, we'll watch Oliveira against Poirier. We'll watch Oliveira against Chandler. And we'll watch Oliveira against Kevin Lee. And we'll watch Makhachev against Tsarukyan. Again, I don't see the point in watching his fight against David Ramos, because Ramos is like Moises, a BJJ guy that tends to slow down a lot as fights progress. Don't see the point in watching the fight against Dober, because Dober has no takedown offense and no ground game. So I think if we cover those fights for the rest of this stream, by the time we're done with those fights, I think we'll have a pretty good idea on how this one's likely to go. So I'll drop the link to the Poirier fight in the live chat for you now. Where is it? Here we go. So sync up this first round for me of Poirier Oliveira. I'll grab you the ESPN Plus link now. There we go. All right. Yeah, it's true, Grit. It is true, dude. I think the problem with trying to work out the threat that Makhachev could pose to Oliveira on the feet is we just really haven't seen any of Makhachev striking. It's tough, right? Hey, what's up, Dr. Y? Hope you're doing good, Dr. Y, mate. Hope you're doing good, mate. What's up, Bab? What's up, Scott Reed? Hope you're doing good, mate. Alright, let's get into Poirier Oliveira. So it starts at 4 minutes and 6 seconds. 4 minutes and 6 seconds. Let's get it going in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. So with how bad Oliveira's striking defense looked against Gaethje, it'll be interesting to see how much damage Poirier is able to inflict early. And look at how aggressive Oliveira is though, man. Straight away, he closes the distance to the point where he's literally stood in a phone booth with Poirier from the first second. Makhachev might not like that. You can see Makhachev is a guy that wants to fight at a safe distance, and Oliveira is just not going to play that game. And what is super notable to me about Oliveira as well, we've seen this early in this fight and definitely in the Gaethje fight. Even if you hurt him on the feet, it doesn't discourage him from continuing to apply that relentless pressure. Like, obviously he's had to back up a little bit here because Poirier stood his ground. But you can see, even in light of the fact that Poirier's landed some big shots early, Oliveira is still trying to drown him in pressure. So that is super notable to me, because what we know from that is Makhachev's not going to be able to fight at the range he wants to fight at on the feet. Because even if he dings Oliveira bad early, Oliveira still isn't going to respect Makhachev on the feet. Because let's be real, if he's not going to show guys like Poirier and Gaethje respect after they've both hurt him really bad and both landed big shots, he's definitely not going to respect Makhachev. Like, even if Makhachev were to drop him, he's still going to keep coming forward, because that's what he's done against Gaethje. I look at the distance that Oliveira wants to fight in, man. He's literally stood 1 foot in front of Poirier. So he closes the distance now, gets to the body lock. Looking for an outside trip. And he's obviously got tight control of Poirier's body, so he might get this. Wow, he kind of fucked that up. He almost pulled Poirier on top of him. I'm not sure why he did that. He had a strong opportunity to hit an outside trip, and he kind of threw Poirier to the wrong side. He shifted his body weight to the right instead of the left, which was weird. Perhaps he was trying to catch Poirier by surprise, but it didn't work too well. So again, you're seeing Poirier land big shots here. But will that slow Oliveira's pressure down at all? He's creeping forward now. So we're seeing Poirier land huge left hands here. Oliveira's backing up a little bit. He's showing Poirier a little bit more respect now. His striking defense is so bad, man. Like, Oliveira just doesn't move his head. And the thing is, like we were saying earlier on in the stream, it doesn't matter how much more dangerous of a striker Oliveira is than Makhachev. Ultimately, if you just zombie forward like this, blocking punches with your face, not moving your head, it only takes one shot, man. And Makhachev is still a big, strong, 156-pound or 155-pound professional athlete. If he lands clean and hard on Oliveira, he can knock him out, man. He can do big damage. Okay. So earlier on in the stream, we were talking about how Oliveira does play possum a little bit, like Damian Maia, Fabrizio Verdum have done, where he goes down easily because he wants guys to think he's hurt a lot worse than he is, in the hope that they jump on top of him to try and go for the finish, and then he can cause them problems off his back. The right hand that put Oliveira down there, I don't think that was a case of Oliveira playing possum, because you could see as soon as the right hand landed, Oliveira's legs just went wobbly straight away. Don't get me wrong, he might have flopped to his back to recover, thinking, if I flopped on my back, there's less chance of me being finished with a follow-up shot than if I were to stay on the feet when I'm this hurt. But that right hook from Poirier definitely hurt him bad. And it is quite staggering to me how bad Oliveira's striking defense looks here. Again, exactly like in the Gaethje fight, he is a sitting duck on the feet. And because Poirier has been able to hurt him real bad in this first round, the fight is now taking place in a range where Makhachev is going to feel comfortable in the middle of the octagon. You can see Poirier is leading the dance now. Ever since that right hook landed, Oliveira has not been able to sustain the pressure in the same way. But the thing is, Poirier is a much better boxer than Makhachev. It's unlikely you're going to see Makhachev stand in the pocket and pick Oliveira apart in boxing range. Like, it could happen, but obviously Poirier has built a career off being a wrestle boxer, right? Poirier's comfortable fighting in the pocket. I mean, he even did it with Conor. He's done it with Gaethje. He's done it with Max Holloway. Makhachev, we've got no idea if he's going to be able to stay as focused as... Well, he's not, right? He's not. Let's be realistic. Makhachev's not going to be able to stand in the pocket and get the better of exchanges like that. Even though Oliveira doesn't move his head at all, the aggression and output from Oliveira is going to make it difficult for Makhachev to stand in front of him and let his hands go in the same way that Poirier and Gaethje have. Poirier and Gaethje are very comfortable in that range. They're absolute war horses. Makhachev might be, but he's pretty unproven. So sync up round 2 for me now, guys, which starts at 10 minutes and 18 seconds. So I'm just going to catch up on the live chat. So 10 minutes and 18 seconds. Sync it up, guys. Yonk is saying Oliveira is going to bash Islam and then submit him. Clifford Rose is saying that Tsarukyan was a short notice replacement, only 5'7", and it was his UFC debut. Great points, Clifford, man. That was a tough debut for Makhachev, and I think what Clifford is trying to say is Makhachev probably wasn't fighting Tsarukyan at his best. The version of Makhachev, the version of Tsarukyan that Makhachev faced is nowhere near the level of Tsarukyan that someone like Mateusz Gamrot faced. Fighters are never at their best in their debuts. That's a really good point, Clifford, man. And Taz and Funhouse just talking about how Makhachev did give his back up to Moises. The thing is, we know how fast Oliveira's back takes are. Dr. Y is asking about the Mackenzie Dern decision. I think that the decision was wrong, man. I think the fight should have been scored a draw. I think it was a pretty easy fight to score. I think it was a draw. Pretty clear draw. I gave the first round to Yan, second round to Dern, third round to Yan, fourth round to Yan, fifth round Dern, but I think 10-8 scorecard was warranted for Dern in round 5 because it was total domination. I think people misinterpret the scoring criteria often, where they think that in order to have a fighter deserve a 10-8 round, they have to practically kill their opponent or like come really close to finishing them. But if you read the scoring criteria, it says that if ever an opponent like outstrikes or outgrapples their opponent by like a really wide margin, a 10-8 round needs to be considered. And if you look at round 5, I think Dern took Yan down about 30-40 seconds into the round and obtained a dominant position. And then the rest of the round was an absolute total shutout. Yan didn't do anything apart from the last 10 seconds of round 5. So even though it wasn't like Yan took loads of damage in round 5 or came close to being submitted or was in a lot of trouble, like she wasn't, but I think it was a 10-8 round because Dern dominated like 4.5 minutes of a 5-minute round. I think that was more than enough for a 10-8. But we know a lot of judges don't like to give out 10-8s, which is a big problem in MMA. But it was cool to see a lot of people in the MMA media score the fight a draw, because I think it was a draw, man. I think Yan took the first, third, and fourth clear. Dern took the second clear, the fifth clear, but the fifth should have been a 10-8, man. You know, nice one, Mitchell. Thanks a lot, Mitchell. I really appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot, dude. I'm gonna do live streams for the Sterling Dillashaw fight and the Yan O'Malley fight as well, man. They'll be coming up soon. But thanks a lot, Mitchell. I really appreciate it, mate. Yeah, Grit. I think what happened to Poirier is I think he adrenaline dumped. It's so demoralizing. Like, you see this happen a lot in MMA, man. Like, Poirier did so well in round 1, but it's demoralizing for a fighter where they land their best shots on their opponent, their cleanest, hardest shots that, you know, they've landed and knocked out so many guys in their career with those same shots. It's demoralizing for a guy like Poirier to keep landing those shots and just see Oliveira keep coming forward. Like, think about it, man. If you give everything you've got and your opponent keeps coming forward, it's got to be demoralizing. So I think Poirier just adrenaline dumped. He landed shots on Oliveira in that first round that have knocked out so many guys in the past, like that right hook, some of those left hands he was landing. And for Oliveira to keep coming forward and not quit, not go away, I just think he broke Poirier in there, man. Which is ironic because obviously people used to break Oliveira earlier in his career, right? He was deemed to be a little bit of a quitter. So the fact that Oliveira's come full circle and now he's got zero quit in him, he's tough as nails, can't be broken. It's a mad turnaround, man. How did you guys score the Dern versus Yan fight? How did you guys score it, man? I think it was a pretty clear 10-8. But obviously a lot of people are reluctant to give 10-8s out. But I think if you interpret the scoring criteria correctly, where it says if a fighter does outgrapple their opponent by a wide margin, I think round 5, it's fair to say that was a pretty wide margin. You know, what I will say though is Yan's ground game has improved by about 1,000% since that Carla Esparza fight. Like, if you would have watched her against Carla Esparza, there's no way you could have expected her to defend herself so well on the ground. Like, I know she took a lot of damage in round 2, but in round 5, even though she was dominated in terms of like position, she really wasn't in that much trouble of being submitted or didn't take that much damage either. So I was really impressed by Yan, man. Hey, what's up, Sherry? Hope you're doing good. Hope you're doing good, Sherry. So Clifford is saying that Charles has better coaches who created a better game plan for him than Mike Brown did for Poirier. They thought they were preparing for the 2016 version of Oliveira. So Hingle, what's up, Hingle, mate? Do you know what, Hingle, man? I was saying earlier on, if the fight was taking place a year or two ago, I think Dillashaw would totally handle Sterling. I think Dillashaw would dominate Sterling standing up and on the ground, because of how difficult Dillashaw has been to hold down, how scrambly he is, how busy he is on the feet, and the fact that Sterling does slow down a lot as fights wear on. Like, 5 rounds is a long time for a guy like Sterling. But with Dillashaw coming back after a significant knee injury, he's really old for a bantamweight at 36 years old, and on top of that, there's that dark cloud over him, you know, over the EPO, the PED issue. I know he looked phenomenal against Sandhagen, But I think now that we know Dillashaw probably built most of his career on the back of PEDs, I think it does make him more difficult to trust, right? More difficult to know what to expect from him, because, man, who knows what kind of shit he's been on throughout his career, and who knows, the longer that he now has to fight clean, the more he might see some of those gains dissipate. Like, perhaps he looked good against Sandhagen because his body was still benefiting from some of those gains that he took from, years and years and years of PED use. Whereas, even though I know he was on a long USADA suspension, he's used PEDs to condition his body over so many years that perhaps, he was in really still good physical condition for that Sandhagen fight. But then the longer time passes without using PEDs, the more of those gains from years and years of using PEDs he's going to lose. So a year or two ago, I would have said Dillashaw would handle Sterling quite easily. But now all those X factors make it a lot trickier to trust Dillashaw, man. Yeah, me too, bad man. I'm very, very surprised at how well Yan defended herself on the feet. When you look at on the ground, sorry. When you look at how bad Yan was against Carla, where she had no idea how to defend herself, to then go 25 minutes against Dern and to survive so many bad decisions on the ground, it is mega impressive. Like, Yan is improving so fast, it's crazy. So let's get into this round 2 now. Oliveira against Poirier. It starts at 10 minutes and 18 seconds. Let's get it going in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Let's go, let's go. So again, Oliveira coming out aggressive at the start of round 2, taking control of the centre of the octagon, putting loads of pressure on Poirier, looking to overwhelm him. So even though he backed off a little bit after taking all that damage in round 1, still coming out the gate aggressive in round 2 and not discouraged at all. You can see Oliveira working for the body lock here. Very, very deep body lock grip here from Oliveira. Looking to take the back. One hook in on the left side. Poirier does a really good job of turning into Oliveira to defend it. Poirier just waiting to slip this right arm out of trouble. Oliveira doesn't have much here. Oh, well, that was a questionable decision. Why didn't Poirier just yank his arm out of there? Why did he try and roll out of it? It didn't... It's very weird, because it didn't look like Oliveira had a particularly tight grip of Poirier's right arm there. He didn't really have it trapped with the legs. It was like a really weak grip. And for Poirier to just roll out of it like that, I don't know why he just didn't yank his arm out. Again, it probably goes back to what we were saying a few moments ago, where by this point, Poirier was just probably starting to break mentally. He's inflicted loads of damage in that first round. He's landed huge shots on Poirier, huge shots on Oliveira. He's dropped him. He's wobbled him. He's landed shots on Oliveira that have knocked a lot of guys out in the past. And yet, at the beginning of round 2, Oliveira still comes out the gate super aggressive, gets in Poirier's face. And that's got to be absolutely demoralising. So Poirier's probably thought, fuck this. And has just literally rolled to his back. What's up, Joey, mate? Joey scored the Dern Yan fighter draw as well, man. Do you know what, though? It is really cool to see so many people score the fighter draw. Because, like I say, usually people are so reluctant to give fighters 10-8 rounds. But the scoring criteria was changed in 2017 to bring more 10-8 rounds into the sport. So it was cool to see a lot of people score the fighter draw, because it does to me show that more people are now looking to score rounds 10-8 in situations where they should be 10-8s, than kind of getting a little bit lazy with the scorecards and going, oh, do you know what? It wasn't like Yan took loads of damage. It wasn't like she was close to being finished. Therefore, I'm just going to go 10-9. I do like the fact that a lot of people did go 10-8 doing in round 5. I just think a draw was the correct score. Like, obviously, I don't hate a win for Yan, because ultimately, Yan won 3 of the 5 rounds, like, indisputably. So, like, I can live with, like, Yan winning the fight. Like, it's not like a robbery or anything. I just don't think it was the correct scorecard. Like, not a terrible scorecard. I just don't think it was the correct one. Of course, one of the judges had it a draw, right? And then 2 of the 3 judges scored it for Yan, so it was a majority decision. I just don't think it was the correct decision. But not a terrible one. So you can see Oliveira just wearing Poirier down, chipping away from top position with these elbows. And Poirier, you can see, man, you can almost see that Poirier's resigned himself to not wanting to be on the feet here, because he hasn't really made any attempt to get back up to his feet in the second round. He's just stayed in the closed guard. And even alternated from closed guard to the body triangle of Oliveira in a purely defensive position, just to try and control the posture of Oliveira, tie him up, and take the least amount of damage on the bottom possible. But it's not like Poirier has shown any willingness to get back up to his feet where he can try and, you know, start to cause Oliveira problems on the feet again like he did in round 1. You can see that by this point Poirier is kind of waving the white flag. I don't think he wants anything to do with Oliveira anymore. He's just in damage limitation mode at this point. So what we're going to do, this fight ends pretty quickly into round 3, just a minute in, so we'll just leave this one rolling, man. We'll just leave this one rolling, and we won't sync it up or anything. We'll just keep watching this one now up until it finishes. And you can see by this point Poirier's just broken, man. He's adrenaline dumped in that first round, and he's just discouraged and broken by the fact that he threw everything that he had at Oliveira, caught him with his best shots, gave him everything that he had, and it still wasn't enough to stop Oliveira from coming forward. And so we'll just move into this third round now. People just saying that Poirier couldn't yank his arm out because Oliveira was grabbing hold of the glove, which meant that the grip on Poirier's left arm was a lot tighter than it would have been if he just had hold of the wrist. But then the thing is, you'd think that instead of rolling out of that position, I mean, it's easy for me to say this because I'm sat in my pants watching these guys in the comfort of my home. I'm not in the heat of the moment, you know, with 20,000 fans going crazy, tired, beat up, stressed the fuck. It's easy for me to say that it was a crazy thing for Poirier to roll out of a position like that, but if Oliveira was grabbing the glove, you would have thought that Oliveira would have perhaps like motioned to Herb Dean that it was happening or something like that. But to me, it was kind of like Poirier just left his arm in there and then just rolled out of it. It is really bizarre. It's a nice back take here from Oliveira. One hook in on the left side. And you can see by this point, I think Poirier just willing to, just ready to wave the white flag like he did against Khabib. And that's that. That is that. Alright, let's watch Oliveira Chandler just because it's a fucking amazing fight. And it only lasts like 5 minutes. So we may as well smash through it. And then we're going to watch the 2 fights which I think are really going to answer a lot of questions on this one. Lee versus Oliveira and Makhachev versus Tsarukyan. And I think by then we'll have a good idea of who is the stronger side to be on here. Whether the fight's worth betting. And we should have a lot of answers to a lot of questions. So, I'll drop the link to the Chandler fight in to the live chat now. I'll grab you the ESPN Plus link as well. And sync up the start of this fight for me. round 1. So round 1 on Fight Pass is 3 minutes and 36 seconds. That's 3 minutes and 36 seconds. 3 minutes 36. Let's get it going in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Beautiful outside leg kick there from Oliveira. We haven't really seen many leg kicks from him. He didn't throw too many against Poirier or Gaethje. I completely forgot that the leg kicks were there for them. To be honest with you, I don't think they're going to be a weapon he can use against Makhachev, because Makhachev doesn't really fight in a range where I think Oliveira is going to be able to land those low calf kicks. Makhachev likes to be all the way out. And obviously, if Oliveira can close the distance and force Makhachev to fight in a phone booth, I think that in that range he's going to be looking for his boxing. Obviously not leg kicks. You don't throw leg kicks from that phone booth range. So I don't think Oliveira is going to be able to use those leg kicks against Makhachev, because Makhachev's quite good at reading his opponents, measuring that distance and staying just outside the range he can be hit. But obviously the low calf kicks here are fucking devastating. Oliveira, again, I can't remember who said it, but someone said that Oliveira went into the Poirier fight with a great game plan, and this performance here shows that Oliveira's used a really good game plan against Chandler as well, because of course we know Brent Primus had loads of success against Chandler with those low calf kicks. So you can see where Oliveira's not really used many calf kicks against Poirier and Gaethje, but he has here against Chandler. You can see Oliveira's really done his homework on specific things that he can do to cause Chandler a problem based on weaknesses Chandler's shown in past fights. So this fight does again illustrate that Oliveira's probably coming into every matchup with a game plan tailored specifically towards his opponent, tailored specifically towards exploiting his opponent's weaknesses, which makes him dangerous. And obviously, like, when I say that, that should be obvious, right? You'd think every fighter would be coming in with a game plan specifically tailored towards exploiting his opponent's weaknesses, but how often do we hear fighters say, I don't watch footage on my opponent, I'm not interested in what they're going to do, I leave that up to my coaches, I'm just focused on, you know, doing what I can do best, and I'm not worried about what they're going to bring to the table. So many fighters take that approach, whereas I think a lot of the elite top tier fighters, you think about, you know, your George St. Pierre's, you know, they talk so much about game planning and strategy that when you see a fight like Oliveira do slightly different things for each opponent, it just shows that he's got great fight IQ, even if he does put himself in loads of danger, which isn't ideal. So again, this fight ends pretty early into round 2, so we'll leave this one rolling as well. 19 seconds in to round 2. And again, you just see probably Oliveira playing a little bit of possum. He goes down very easily. The only shot that I've seen Oliveira absorb and go down where I think he has been really badly hurt was that right hook off Poirier. That one definitely rang his bell. But the others, I do get the feeling he might be, like you guys have said, playing possum a little bit, going down relatively easily so that he can attack off his back. As you can see him fishing for arm bars here. A heavy ground and pound from Chandler, doing big damage from top position. Trying to cover the mouth up of Oliveira as well to disrupt the breathing. That is some nasty shit from Chandler, man. So, do you know what I am seeing in this fight? I am seeing Oliveira look quite weak off his back, in the sense that he is throwing his legs up to try and in some way either control the posture of Chandler or at times attack with arm bars, and Oliveira just has nothing off his back with his legs. Like, Chandler is just handling him from top position. And we've got to think, I know that Chandler's a former NCAA Division 1 level wrestler, very, very strong wrestler, but he's also a lot smaller than Makhachev. Isn't Chandler like 5'8"? I think, something like that. Yeah, he's 5'8". Makhachev is a much bigger man than Chandler is, and Chandler just totally handled Oliveira from top position there. It will be interesting to see how Oliveira dealt with the physicality of Kevin Lee on the ground, because Oliveira had nothing for Chandler off his back there, absolutely nothing. Like, Chandler was very comfortable there. So we'll go into this second round now. Obviously it ends 19 seconds in. Big left hook. And Oliveira just swarms Chandler. Takes him out. Very nice. Alright, we've watched a lot of footage on Oliveira now. Fight after fight. So I think what we should do, switch things up a little bit. And let's take a look at the Makhachev versus Tsarukyan fight. Then we'll watch Oliveira, Kevin Lee. I think by the time we're done with those two fights, we'll know where we are on this one. So I will grab you the Tsarukyan fight now. So sync this one up for me. Sync it up. And like someone said earlier on, I can't remember who it was. Was it Clifford Rose? I think Clifford said earlier on that we've got to remember that this was Tsarukyan's UFC debut. He was only 22 years old and he took it on short notice. So obviously Makhachev didn't fight the best version of Tsarukyan. Certainly not the version of Tsarukyan that Mateusz Gamrot ran into, who was an absolute fucking beast. So that's worth noting as well. I think it was Clifford. If not, apologies for whoever brought that up, because that was a really, really good point that I would have definitely missed. So this starts at 1 minute 47. So sync this one up for me. 1 minute 47. 1 minute 47. And let's get it going in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Here we go. Obviously this fight was also back in 2019, so Makhachev could have improved a lot in the last 3 years, especially because he is only 31 years old. So he would have been what, like 27, 28 years old when this fight took place, depending on when his birthday is. And obviously at that stage in a fighter's career, they can improve a lot. So nice deep double leg entry there from Makhachev, but you can see that Tsarukyan was able to shut it down pretty easily with double underhooks. And again, this is why this fight is very useful to watch, because when Makhachev was shooting those kind of double leg entries on Bobby Green, Dan Hooker, Thiago Moises, there was nothing that they could do about it, and he was getting him down easily. But now that he's facing a guy with better defensive wrestling, Makhachev really didn't get near that double leg. Tsarukyan got the double underhooks really, really early and completely shut it down. Super notable to me though how weak Oliveira looked off his back against Chandler, like how comfortable Chandler was from top position. Like Oliveira didn't get near tying up and controlling Chandler's posture off his back with his legs. Chandler just handled him and smashed him from top position, which is really interesting to me. because I do think Makhachev's going to be a lot bigger than Chandler, and he's a lot younger. Nice inside trip there from Makhachev, straight into mount. And now you can see he's tying up those legs Khabib style. Looking to pass now, the side control. Can't get there. Can he? Nice. Tsarukyan using that butterfly hook on the right side to elevate Makhachev and pop back up. Tsarukyan is so good, man. Like, obviously we've spoken a lot about how bad the decision it was when he fought Gamrot, but I think Tsarukyan is so special, man. Look how scrambly he is. This was his UFC debut as well, 22 years old. He's so fucking good. So these are the positions where obviously Oliveira is going to be dangerous. So many wins by guillotine, so many nasty chokes where he can use those skinny, thin arms just to thread them under the neck of his opponent. But we know Makhachev's not the kind of guy that's going to panic in positions like that. So a really, really good first round from Tsarukyan. Very scrambly. Made it difficult for Makhachev to obtain any dominant positions. I know he was briefly mounted, but very, very briefly. Good takedown defense. Again, Makhachev gives his back up there. I think Taz was mentioning that he did the same against Thiago Moises. Obviously, a guy like Oliveira is not going to be able to match the physicality of Tsarukyan and move Makhachev around like this off a body lock. Or maybe he could. I mean, maybe he could, right? Oliveira's body lock looked pretty strong against Poirier. But there's obviously a big difference in the scrambliness and the defensive wrestling of a guy like Makhachev compared to Poirier. But we also know that while Oliveira may not be able to match the physicality and wrestling of someone like Tsarukyan, Makhachev's back takes are going to be a lot slicker and a lot faster than the likes of Tsarukyan. So you make one mistake on the ground against Oliveira, he's going to be a lot better at making you pay for it than Tsarukyan will be. So that's twice we have seen Makhachev expose his back now. I think Taz was mentioning that a few times in the live chat. Can't do that against Oliveira. We saw what he did to Poirier in that third round. Really good first round for Tsarukyan, man. I mean, you could make a case for Tsarukyan winning this first round. Both guys just crazy scrambly. It's insane how good Tsarukyan is for how young he is, man. So let's watch round two. So round two starts at 7 minutes and 56 seconds. That's 7 minutes 56 seconds. So sync this one up for me. 7 minutes 56. Hey, what's up, Nick Rodriguez, mate? What's up, Green Skyline? Hope you're doing good, man. What's up, Bab? Alright, let's get this second round going. Starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. So really impressed with Tsarukyan in round one, man. What you can see, though, between the Gamrot fight and this fight is how much Tsarukyan's striking's improved. Like, Tsarukyan's striking looks so good against Gamrot. You can see he just doesn't quite have that against Makhachev. So I know we're obviously watching this to break down Makhachev, but it's really hard not to watch this and appreciate how good Tsarukyan is as well. I know Gamrot's got a fight coming up against Dariush. Has Tsarukyan got a fight scheduled? Does anyone know who he's fighting next? Oh, it's Islam. Not Islam. What am I talking about? Damir Ismagulov, right? Those are two fucking bangers, man. Ismagulov against Tsarukyan and Gamrot against Beneil Dariush. UFC doing the fucking Lord's work with matchmaking like that. Two amazing fights. What's actually interesting about that as well, I think Tsarukyan, even though he lost to Gamrot, I think he's actually got a tougher fight in Ismagulov than Gamrot does in Beneil Dariush. I think Tsarukyan would beat Beneil Dariush quite comfortably, because I think Tsarukyan would be way too fast, way too technical for Dariush on the feet. With how good of an MMA grappler Tsarukyan is, I don't think Dariush would be able to get his BJJ going on the ground. And we obviously know Dariush slows down a lot as fights wear on, whereas Tsarukyan's cardio is amazing. So I actually think Ismagulov is a tougher fight for Tsarukyan than Dariush would be. So obviously Ismagulov, very good combat sambo, good gas tank, good striking, very good grappler. Even though Ismagulov doesn't have like the name factor that Dariush does, I think Ismagulov's a much tougher fight. Which is interesting because obviously with Gamrot winning, they're matching him up against Dariush, who's a higher ranked opponent, so that the winner of Gamrot and Dariush takes, you know, that step towards the title picture. Whereas I actually think Ismagulov and Tsarukyan, that's probably the higher level matchup. Two really, really, really skilled combat sambo guys. I shouldn't even be talking, man. We should be focusing on Makhachev, but it's just to know this is his, you know, Tsarukyan's debut, 22 years old. It's crazy how good he looks here. On short notice as well, someone was saying it's crazy. But very nice chain wrestling here from Makhachev. Is able to get to the body lock off that single leg attempt. And I do think this is an area where he can cause Oliveira big problems. Even though Oliveira is nasty on the ground, I don't think he's going to be able to compete with the chain wrestling of Makhachev. I just think Makhachev's going to be too physically imposing, too strong for him. Beautiful pass in the side control off that body lock. And this is where you can see Makhachev's MMA grappling really start to shine. Tsarukyan does a great job of, again, creating space and popping back up. But again, no disrespect to Oliveira, I just don't think he's got that kind of MMA grappling. He's not a wrestler. Tsarukyan is an elite wrestler. We saw Oliveira looking kind of weak off his back against Chandler. I don't see him as being as scrambly as Tsarukyan, or being able to match the MMA grappling of Tsarukyan. I think at this pace you'd probably see Oliveira slow down quite a lot. The pace these two guys are fighting at is absolutely relentless, man. Makhachev looking for a high crotch single leg at the end of this round. Will he run out of time, or is he going to fully commit to it to try and end the round with a takedown? Looks like he's just hanging on here. Yo, I will say this, man. I completely forgot how competitive this fight was. Like, Tsarukyan's done great here, man. So sync up round 3 for me now, which starts at 14 minutes and 4 seconds. That's 14 minutes and 4 seconds. Sync it up, guys. 14 minutes and 4 seconds. And let's get it going in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Yeah, I agree with you, Grit, man. I think it was an awful decision, the Tsarukyan Gamrot fight. It was one of I think the decision was one of the worst decisions we've had this year. I did a video breaking the decision down, like watching the fight round by round in the cold light of day, and I do feel super strong that Tsarukyan won that fight 4 rounds to 1, clear as day. It was a particularly bad decision, one of the worst this year. I think Tsarukyan Gamrot is up there, The other bad one was Zumagulov. Who did Zumagulov fight? That was a really bad one as well. It was one of James Krause's fighters. Zumagulov against Jeff Molina. This was a really bad one as well. I think Zumagulov, Molina, Gamrot, Tsarukyan, those were two really bad ones. There's probably some more I've forgotten about, but those two stick out as being horrendous decisions this year. I think Gaethje Emmett, that one was a pretty bad one as well. Gaethje should have taken that. Beautiful deep double leg there from Tsarukyan, but you can see that Makhachev is having an easier time neutralizing the grappling of Tsarukyan now, just because Tsarukyan, short notice, 22 years old, UFC debut, starting to slow down a bit now, so he doesn't have as much drive on these takedown entries. But you know what is what you know, we learned something pretty big about Oliveira in that Chandler fight, and that was that Chandler did look quite physically weak off his back. What I've learned about Makhachev in this fight against Tsarukyan is that his gas tank is absolutely amazing. Because even though to the naked eye, like, not tons has happened in this fight, like neither guy's been particularly hurt, neither guy's been put in really bad positions. For the most part, they've kind of cancelled each other out and it's been a stalemate. The pace that these two have fought at, like, this has been a relentless pace. And the fact that Makhachev's not even breathing heavy in this third round, like, Makhachev is still fresh as a daisy. Like, look at how scrambly Makhachev is. Look at his defensive wrestling. The fact that Makhachev has been able to fight at this pace and not slow down at all makes me feel he's probably going to have a pretty big cardio advantage over Oliveira. Because even in this third round, when these two guys have been sprinting, Makhachev still looks absolutely fantastic. So Makhachev's cardio, I think, could also pose a pretty big problem for Oliveira in this fight. Because like I say, even though Oliveira's improved a lot since those fights back in 2015, 2016, ultimately, we have seen Oliveira slow down in the past. And if Makhachev is going to grind on him and wear him down like this, I would trust Makhachev's cardio based on what I've seen here. The fact that he's been able to sprint with Tsarukyan for almost 15 minutes over what we've seen from Oliveira in the past. Oh yeah, that's not a good one, Joey, man. Oh, I think that was last year, right? Like July 2021. Not a good one though, mate. You're right. Not good, man. So what we'll do after this, guys, we're gonna watch Kevin Lee Charles Oliveira to see how Oliveira coped with the physically imposing style of Kevin Lee's wrestling on the ground. And then by the time we're done with that fight, I think we'll be ready to wrap this one up and conclude which side is the better side to be on from a betting point of view, and if this fight is worth betting at all. Is the over set at over 2.5 rounds on this, or is it 4.5? See, now this is interesting to me, man. This is quite interesting to me. How do you guys feel about the over-under? I feel this fight is probably more likely to go over 2.5 rounds at underdog odds, simply because I don't see Makhachev hanging out for that long on the feet against Oliveira. I think Makhachev is going to look to level change and alleviate the pressure Oliveira is going to try and put on him early. And I don't think Oliveira is going to be able to stop Makhachev from taking him down. But I don't think Makhachev is devastating enough on the ground to finish Oliveira before the 2.5 round mark. I think if Makhachev were to get a finish, I think it would take, you know, a few rounds of him kind of wearing Oliveira down, grinding him out on the feet. Sorry, grinding him out on the ground. And I don't think it's that likely Oliveira submits Makhachev with how obviously strong of an MMA grappler Makhachev is, and how kind of weak Oliveira looked off his back against Chandler. But we'll see now in this Kevin Lee fight how dangerous Oliveira looks off his back. So this is probably going to be the last fight that we watch on this live stream. I think we will have watched more than enough footage on both these guys to get a good read on this one by the time this Oliveira Lee fight is done. So sync this one up for me. I'll grab the ESPN Plus link as well. And let's get into it, man. Sync this one up for me. And yeah, we'll do more of these live streams soon. We'll get the Yan O'Malley live stream and the Sterling Dillashaw live stream going soon. In a couple days, hopefully sometime this week. So sync up this first round, Oliveira against Lee. It starts at 2 minutes 36, and let's take a look at when this fight took place to gauge how much Oliveira might have improved. So it took place in March 2020, so just over 2 years ago. So obviously Oliveira could have improved a lot since then, but obviously Makhachev could have improved a lot since the Tsarukyan fight as well. So not a lot we can do about reading that. So now let's start this first round off. Kevin Lee against Oliveira. Let's get it going in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. So again, Oliveira coming out super aggressive, taking control of the center of the octagon and just looking to overwhelm Lee with a diverse range of attacks. He's throwing flying knees, flying kicks, boxing combinations, super aggressive. And Kevin Lee trying to do exactly what Makhachev is going to try and do. Obviously, when Oliveira was applying this pressure to Gaethje and Poirier, both Gaethje and Poirier stood their ground and looked to back him up with big boxing combinations. Kevin Lee is doing what we're going to expect from Makhachev, where instead of trying to stand his ground and fire back with big combinations, instead he's trying to just back up and circle away. And he's trying to avoid engaging, which is exactly what you'd expect Makhachev to do. There's those calf kicks again. Beautiful outside leg kicks from Oliveira. Oliveira drives a double leg, hits an outside trip. Kevin Lee ends up on top and Oliveira immediately rolls for a leg, which interestingly is something that Moises did against Makhachev, and there was a bit of a stalemate at the end of that second round, I think. Second or third round. But it won't be easy to submit Makhachev with a leg lock. Looks like Oliveira is trying to use that leg lock to take top position, but Lee scrambles out of there. So we were saying how weak Oliveira looked off his back against Chandler. Interesting to see how he looks here against Kevin Lee when Lee eventually frees this left leg. You see Oliveira now so crafty, trying to use control of that leg to take the back. It's going to be very difficult for him to do that though, because Lee can obviously just turn into Oliveira. There he goes, he's freed that left leg. Oliveira now rolling for the other leg. He's going back to the left leg. See, Oliveira is relentless, man. But the thing is, for how long can Oliveira be relentless like this on the ground? For how long can he continue to attack? At what point does he start to slow and the jiu-jitsu becomes less aggressive? Because here, he's able to use his Brazilian jiu-jitsu, that aggressive, fast style of jiu-jitsu, to prevent Kevin Lee from obtaining a dominant position. But for how long can he do that? Until he just becomes too tired, too worn out, and then just has to stall more on the ground and accept being on his back, because he just doesn't have the energy to continually attack these submissions. You can see Lee trying to flatten Oliveira out now, but his left leg is still trapped in an awkward position. Be interesting to see what Oliveira's body language is like once Lee frees this left leg. Hopefully he does free it by the end of the round. Here we go, it's free now. So what does Oliveira's body language look like now that he hasn't been able to really put Lee in any kind of bad position. So how does Oliveira look off his back here? He's walking his legs up, looking for an armbar. Lee tries to pass into side control, but Oliveira uses that space to scramble into top position. Very, very nice. What is notable to me, though, is that in these positions, Makhachev often keeps control of his opponent's body, whereas Lee hasn't. So obviously it's a lot easier to scramble into top position when your opponent doesn't have control of your body. Lee's just trying to stay heavy on top here, but he's not actually controlling Oliveira off the body lock. He's just kind of trying to stay in the top position, which is why Oliveira can create these scrambles and end up on top. A lot harder, though, if Makhachev's just going to sit in that body lock position. So what we have noticed as the round has gone on is Oliveira's become progressively less scrambly off his back, but he is still very, very active off his back. But at the same time, you can see the physicality from Lee is making it very difficult for Oliveira to just grab a hold of Lee and trap him in a bad position. So very interesting first round. Let's take a look at this second round now. So round 2 starts at 8 minutes and 45 seconds. That's 8 minutes 45. Hey, what's up, Loco? Hope you're doing good, mate. 8 minutes 45. Sync it up, guys. 8 minutes 45. The Funhouse is saying that he also likes the over 2.5 rounds. Surprised this at dog odds, you know. I think both guys are good enough grapplers to hang in there with one another for at least that amount of time. Could be wrong. But I do like the over more than I like the under. So let's get this round 2 going. Starting 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. So I'm very, very interested to see how Oliveira looks off his back in this round. Because obviously in round 1, still fresh. Still got gas in the tank, which will enable you to be more active and scrambly off your back. But if the fight goes back to the ground now, I'm interested to see how active Oliveira is off his back in this round. Still moving well on the feet. But if Lee can put Oliveira on his back in this round, I'm interested to see if Oliveira looks more like he did off his back against Chandler, or if he is still crazy active off his back and difficult to establish a dominant position against. And we're seeing Lee fade here now. Lee is being forced to stand his ground and fire back with punches more than he did in round 1, simply because at this point in the fight he just doesn't have the energy to circle away like he did in round 1. So he's being forced to stand his ground and fire back. You can really see that the footwork of Lee is a lot flatter here in round 2 than it was in round 1. And because of that, Oliveira is finding it a lot easier to get to Lee with his boxing combinations than he could in round 1. So we talked a lot about how Lee tends to slow down a lot as fights wear on, and you can really see it here. Even in the hand speed of Lee. Look at when Lee's throwing punches now to try and back Oliveira up. It's almost like Lee's fighting underwater. There's just no pop on his shots at all. His arms look very heavy. Look how slow Lee is, man. After 5 minutes, he's done. Look at that lazy jab to the body. There's just nothing on it. And so now, unlike with Gaethje and Poirier, where they still had big power in their hands to hurt Oliveira on the feet, Oliveira can come forward with impunity now, because he knows doesn't have to worry about anything coming back in his direction, because Lee is fading, he's tired, doesn't have any pop on his shots. So now let's look at how Oliveira looks off his back. Again, gave up an easy takedown. That's no surprise though, because we know he's not interested in stuffing takedowns. He's quite happy to be on the ground. Creates a scramble here with all kinds of attacks, but Lee gets the body lock, takes him right back down into half guard. So this is obviously a position that Oliveira is likely to find himself in against Makhachev. We know Makhachev likes to take guys down off the body lock in the half guard. So let's see how Oliveira looks here. 2 minutes 15 seconds left to go in the round. We should get a good look at Oliveira off his back here. Remember how physically imposing Makhachev looked at this stage in the fight with his MMA grappling against Tsarukyan. We know Makhachev can go hard on the ground till at least this point. So is Oliveira just going to accept being in this position? Because if he does accept being in this position and looks this weak off his back at this stage in the fight, we know it's very likely Makhachev can give him absolute hell by the second half of round 2. Obviously, unless Oliveira's improved a lot since this matchup, which he might have. But then again, all we can do is make the best decision possible with the information we got available. And you can see Oliveira again, just like, you know, in the Chandler fight, Oliveira is looking very weak off his back here. Very, very weak off his back. Like, he's got nothing off his back here at all. Lee is holding him down with ease. So what we'll do, we'll plough through and just watch the third round here as well, because it ends 28 seconds in. And then I'm going to summarise how I feel about this one. But yeah, Oliveira's looking super weak off his back here, man. He's got nothing for Lee from the bottom. And Makhachev isn't going to be as tired as Lee at this stage in the fight. And his grappling's at a much higher level than Lee's as well. Like, even look at this. As Oliveira's rolling for the leg, he's nowhere near as aggressive with it as he was in round 1. I think this is probably one of those fights where if Makhachev can just survive round 1, I think he's going to do really well here, man. I think Makhachev's going to roll here. I think Makhachev's going to dominate this fight if he can make it through round 1. Look how comfortable Lee has been in this second round. So we'll just keep this rolling, guys, and we'll watch the 28 seconds of round 3. And I'll give you my thoughts on this one. But before we wrap this live stream up, obviously we've all watched tons of footage on these two guys now. Guys, let me know what you think about this fight. Let me know in the live chat who you think is going to win this. If you're going to be betting this fight, who you lean towards. Let me know what you think, guys. I am probably going to be betting Makhachev in this fight. I think this fight and the Chandler fight has got me over the line on a bet on Makhachev. The way I look at this fight is Oliveira poses a significant threat to Makhachev in round 1. I think it's very possible Oliveira could knock Makhachev out, you know, with a big combination on the feet, maybe a flying knee or something as Makhachev shoots a takedown. I even think Oliveira, you know, can take Makhachev's back in a crazy scramble in round 1 and submit him. But I think if Makhachev survives that first round, with how flat Oliveira's looked on the ground here in round 2 against Lee, with how weak he looked on the ground against Chandler, I think if Makhachev can just make it through that fire, make it through that storm in round 1, I think Oliveira is going to give up takedowns so easily in rounds 2 and 3 that I just see Makhachev totally handling Oliveira from round 1. I think what makes Oliveira dangerous is that he is very aggressive. He's absolutely relentless. You know, he's got that kill or be killed style where he's dangerous from every position, right? Look how quickly he's locked in that guillotine and finished Lee. And he can for sure do that to Makhachev. But I think the longer the fight goes, the more it benefits Makhachev. And I think if we're being brutally honest, past that 6-7 minute mark, I think it's really unlikely Oliveira wins this. And it's not going to be easy for Oliveira to finish a tough Russian like Makhachev with excellent MMA grappling. Because we know Makhachev can probably use his combat sambo and his wrestling to neutralize a lot of the threats that Oliveira brings to the table. And even though Oliveira is very dangerous with his submissions and his striking early, we also know he's very bad defensively himself. So where he's going to walk forward, hands down low, chin up high, like we said, Makhachev's nowhere near as dangerous as him on the feet. But with how much danger Oliveira puts himself on the feet with how easy it is to hit. Makhachev could catch him with something. It's not impossible. So I think I am going to bet Makhachev here. And not too big. I wouldn't want to bet a lot of money on Makhachev because Oliveira is very dangerous. But it's hard for me not to bet Makhachev when I see how strong his MMA grappling is against a guy like Tsarukyan. And how weak Oliveira's looked off his back against both Chandler and Kevin Lee. I think if Makhachev comes into this fight with the same level of MMA grappling he demonstrated against the likes of Moises, Tsarukyan, Davy Ramos, Hooker, Bobby Green, I think early on Oliveira may be able to cause him some problems, may be able to get to his back, getting on some nice leg locks, whatever. But if Makhachev can just weather that early storm, make it through round one, I think he's going to dominate this fight. And so I'm going to bet Makhachev here, man, based on what I've seen. Let me know what you think, though, guys. Let me know what you think. Beezy is betting 250 on Makhachev. Sounds good to me, mate. Green Skyline saying that the only way he sees this going under is if Oliveira KOs Makhachev, which could definitely happen, man. Like someone said earlier on, you could easily see Oliveira looking for the flying knees down the middle and stuff as Makhachev shoots takedowns. Could definitely get caught with something there. Green Skyline saying that he thinks he wants Oliveira to win, but his brain is saying it's a decision for Makhachev. The Funhouse is saying he's taking Makhachev as well. His probability is much higher than 60% of winning, which is of course why you'd need in order to justify a bet on Makhachev, because if we go right back to the odds that we covered at the beginning of the stream, average odds available on Makhachev right now are about 1.61, which is minus 164 for an implied probability of 62%. So Funhouse is saying, look, if we give Makhachev a better than 62% chance of winning, we got value here. And I agree with Funhouse, man. I think I definitely cap Makhachev having a better than 60% chance of winning. The reason why I cap him at having a better than 60% chance of winning is ultimately this is a 25-minute fight. And while I do think Oliveira can give Makhachev hell for 5 minutes, it is only 5 minutes of a 25-minute fight. So for that reason, I think you've got to give Makhachev a better than 60% chance of winning. So in that case, like Funhouse said, there's going to be value on Makhachev here. Mad Music saying, not betting it, don't see great value on Makhachev. He should win, but Oliveira has plenty of ways to win. Yeah, I definitely agree that Oliveira has a lot of ways to win. But the reason why I disagree with you, and I do think there's value on Makhachev, is because I think Oliveira has a lot of ways to win in round one and maybe round two. I think if Makhachev survives the first and second round, I don't think there's barely anything Oliveira can do to him in the third, fourth and fifth, because I don't think Oliveira is going to have the energy to compete with the physicality and the hustle of Makhachev on the ground. So I definitely agree with everyone that is saying Oliveira has more ways to win, but for how long does he have more ways to win? Is it 5 minutes? Is it 10 minutes? Either way, in a 25-minute contest, that doesn't give him like a super high chance of winning, in my opinion, because I feel it will be difficult to finish Makhachev both standing up and on the ground. What's up, Underrated mate? Good to see you, man. Nice one, guys. So yeah, that's going to be it for this live stream. That was a long session. Hit the like button if you like these live streams, and also subscribe if you haven't already. And we'll come back and we'll do more live streams for some more fights on this card. We'll do Sterling Dillashaw, Yan O'Malley as soon as we can. There's a lot of football this week, which I'm going to be betting, so it might not be this week, but we'll definitely do them well in time ahead of Makhachev versus Oliveira. So nice one for watching, guys. Love you all. Take care. Have a great week, and I'll be dropping a breakdown video for the Araujo versus Grasso card super soon, probably tomorrow actually. So nice one, guys. Thanks for watching. Love you guys, and I'll